You're joking. Another one? Yeah, another one. We have another best of all time list coming out from Paste magazine. What they did is they saw Apple Music and thought, no, let's show them how it's done. And they did it. They're back here with the 300 greatest albums of all time, and I thought it'd be fun to do a little reaction for it. We're not going to react to 300 albums though. I think I'd be here for frigging hours, and I ain't got time for that. They don't pay me enough for that, let me tell you right now. They do not pay me nowhere near enough to be doing that. So I'm going to look from the top 100 onwards and give you some brief thoughts on the albums and the order and the ranking, and yeah, let's just talk about it. These are fun videos to do. You guys seem to like them. Let's do another one, shall we? Another one. Let's do it. So what we have seen so far, I did skim through from 300 to 101, and we've had Another Green World, Modern Vampires by Vampire Weekend. I think that's overshooting it a little bit personally. We've had When the Pawn though, Fiona Apple, very happy to see that one. Blue Rev, always, had to write that one down. I was very surprised to see an album from a couple of years ago already make a list like this. I think it's a great album, maybe a bit brave to be putting it on here, but I kind of respect it, although, like I say, I think we need to let albums breathe before we start shooting high with these kinds of lists. Personally, I said the same thing with SZA on the Apple Music one. You know, was it Bad Bunny was another one that had pretty much only just come out. Little early, but Hosiana Mantra from Populva, one of the best for me. That would be somewhere in my top 25 of all time, I would say, if I were to ever rank. Love that album. There is Lovin' You by Forte. I was saying with the electronic albums, we need to see more stuff like this when we're doing these rankings, because this is an amazing album, but yet every time we see these lists, it's like Daft Punk, and that's it. There is more electronic music out there, guys, than Daft Punk. If you don't know that, you should. Atrocity Exhibition was an interesting one. Carrie and Lowell as well. Southeastern from Jason Isbell. Loved that this was on the list. Paste magazine have got it locked in. And then also Donuts, which I think should have made the Apple Music one as well. There wasn't really any instrumental hip-hop at all. It was all just like, you know, rapping hip-hop. You get what I'm trying to say. A big snub for me on that list, and I was happy to see it here. Maybe could have been higher too, you could argue, but even still, we're talking 300 albums of all time here. It's very hard to get a list like this right. So let's get on with it. There's some of the notable ones I wanted to mention from 300 to 101. Obviously, click the link in the description if you want to just read the full list yourself. But here are going to be my live, in-the-moment thoughts on their list. Donna Summer, Bad Girls. Pretty good album. Some bangers on there. Donna Summer is a legend, without a doubt. And then Death Symbolic right next to it. You can see already the variety and diversity that these guys have. Pretty impressive. Death Symbolic is a really cool album. Got Fleetwood Mac's Tusk as well. Got all these friggin' ads popping up. Paste, calm yourselves down. Alright, we don't need Aldi popping up. We don't need Aldi. You can shop at Aldi if you like. I'm a fan of Aldi, but I just don't need to see it right now. I just need to see the list, okay? Fleetwood Mac Tusk as well on here. What else we got? Aphex Twin. There we go. Some more electronic music. Jesus Christ. Aphex Twin, Selected Ambient Works Volume 2. Bit of a confession. There are some big releases from Aphex that I actually haven't sunken into yet. One of them being Drugs. That's an album that I haven't actually sat with yet. I know that's a bit of a blasphemous thing to say, but yeah, I just haven't got round to it. They're pretty long, some of his albums, but yeah. Of course, Sade, Love Deluxe, really good album too. Oh, Marquee Moon, Television. This is one I do not see enough of on lists, but you know, the kind of cool indie nerds tend to include it, which I'm all for. But yeah, this is an amazing album, like of its kind as well. It is just such an amazing post-punk release. One of the very best for me, easily. I take it above a lot of the classics, if I'm being honest. We've also got Smashing Pumpkins, Siamese Dream. Yeah, can't really fault this pick. I think it's a very good album. Very much on board with Smashing Pumpkins. I think they're a really good band. One that I think have kind of tipped over the edge a little bit as time's gone on, but when you look at like their best work and and their top tier work, it's really hard to fault. They were pretty on it in the 90s. Beastie Boys, Paul's Boutique. Yeah, one of those albums for me, I think I appreciate and respect more than I actively love it and enjoy it myself, just because I think its influence and its sampling techniques are super, super ahead of its time. But obviously, it's just a case for me where it's like the album that might have set the tone for everything to come after isn't as good as what came after, if you get what I mean. Maybe a little harsh there, but yeah, I'm not really like an absolute head over heels lover for what they were doing on this album. I appreciate it, but I don't love it. Do you get what I mean? Life of Pablo, Kanye West at 86. I think that's a bit of a bold take. I know people really love this album, but to be in the top 100 all time, I think is kind of wild. Like, I think we forget, like, Kanye might get passes in ways other artists don't. Like, I was there at the time. Little young me, ready for this album to come out, it getting delayed, it coming out and it not sounding right, and then him having to go back and fix songs and re-release stuff, and it all just be like a total mess. The Twitter outbursts he was having at the time. Like, it was just all a bit, like, icky the way this album came out. And I don't think it turned out that great. Like, I really don't. I don't think it's the album it's put on the pedestal to be. Like, there's some amazing tracks on it, but it's just a classic post-Yeezus Kanye album where it's like unfiltered, needs fixing in places, doesn't have all of the best of his abilities being displayed in one place. Has some great rapping performances, do not get me wrong. Some great performances generally across the album, features and stuff, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I think there's a lot to cut out of this album. And it was just, this album for me, I think will always scar me, because I feel like it's just the beginning of Kanye kind of falling off his pedestal for me. And yet people seem to absolutely love it. I don't know why. Yeah, it always confuses me, this one. Wow, Sufjan here is kind of crazy. That is a crazy pull from them, but I'm all for it. I'm all for it. It's a very interesting, intricate, detailed album for sure that really displayed some of Sophie's most unique like ideas. She was an incredible artist that we really need to see more of. Unfortunately, we did not, of course. But yeah, the influence, I would probably say actually product was more of the influence, I would say. That we see more of that in some modern tropes more than we do that one. But, you know, I think it's very fair to have either. I prefer product, but very much on board with that one being included. Pixies, Surfer Rosa, yeah, very much one you tend to see on a lot of lists. It was a bit surprising to see them not be on the Apple Music one. Not that we should be just comparing the two lists, but I think it's because it's the most recent one. And it's very obvious now that we're going to start seeing lists like this drop out of nowhere. We might even see Spotify do one. And it's going to be very hard not to go, oh, this list, that list, blah, 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 blah. Radiohead in Rainbows. Yeah, I think if I were to pick one, it's either that or Kid A would be my like best Radiohead album. D'Angelo Voodoo, of course, as well. I actually think Black Messiah is D'Angelo's best, and that was lower down on the list. So it is included in the top 300, just in case you haven't read it. You know, you don't worry about that. It is there. But yeah, for me, I think that one's better than Voodoo. Ooh, Good Kid, Mad City at number 72, okay. Yeah, can't really argue with the write-up here from Mr. Grant Sharples. Storyteller, amazing stuff. Yeah, documents his experience growing up. It's just such a great story, just an amazing narrative through and through, start to end. What an album, man. Just has to be on a list like this for me. I couldn't not include it. Again, with Like a Prayer, I said this last time, but I feel like, am I missing something? Yeah, I always thought Self-Titled was the one that people liked the most. Is it just me that likes that one the most? Is there nobody else out there that thinks Madonna Self-Titled is Madonna's best? Unless it pops up later on. I don't know. Unless I've missed it. I might have missed it if I was scrolling through quickly. My Bloody Valentine. Okay, for sure. Yeah, you can't really knock it for its influence, I wouldn't say. Not an album I absolutely love, not absolutely head over heels for it, but yeah, I think it's a good album for sure. Nas Illmatic, 69, nice. Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it would be ranking on a list like this for me, because I saw people go pretty crazy about it being 39 on Apple Music's, and it's like, what's wrong with 39? Like, that's high up, and this one's 69, so it's even lower for these. But when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, actually, where would it be for me? And I don't know where it would rank. I think it would be like in my top 200 all-time albums. I don't think it would be in my top 100 if I think about it hard enough. Like, I think I just love more hip-hop albums than it. And I think I have more albums from all genres that I think I'd rank above it. So I'm not really too mad at this placement, but people seem to be really mad at when it doesn't rank in like the top 10. But I don't personally think it's a top 10 all-timer. Okay, now we're talking right now. Because earlier in the list, Thriller pops up. I think it's in the hundreds somewhere. But at number 66, my friends, we have Off the Wall. Yeah, Paste Magazine get it. It's the better album. It's better than Thriller, guys. And I keep saying, and I'm glad they recognised it. Nevermind, Nirvana, of course, great album. Again, for me, similar to Illmatic, like albums I love. But when I think about it hard enough, would it be in my top 100 all time? Personally, probably not. But I think it's difficult when you're like trying to compile a list that's not just about quality of music. You're trying to capture the impact. You're trying to capture the culture. You're trying to capture the influence. And then it becomes murky and it's tricky to know how to rank things, which is why I probably never will do a list like that, because I just think it's too difficult to get all the metrics right. The Beatles' White Album, one of my favourite Beatles albums. I'm very much on board with that. Lucinda Williams' Car, Wheels on a Gravel Road. I think it's a decent album. I just don't think it should be this high. I mean, especially when lists like this don't tend to have a lot of country music on them. And then they pop up with these kind of like alt country albums, these kind of alt Americana albums. Not that it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I think it's a good album. But I just think it's always interesting that we're probably going to see Wilco on this list. And they're the kind of like bands that these lists tend to favour over actual like traditional country. And I just think country music gets a little underrepresented. I think it's a good album, but you know, another example would be like Songs Oh Higher, like that band. Like I don't really rate them that highly, but they always make it on these lists. Bonnie Prince Billy, like the alternative, cool hipster country choices that aren't really like rooted officially in country music. This just feels like one of those to me. I gotta be real, man. I think we're doing a little too much with Lemonade. I mean, right side by side with Stevie Wonder's In the Visions. And I know it's only one place higher, and I know getting caught up in these kinds of rankings is really silly, but I just think suggesting that Lemonade is better than Innovisions, I think it's just a bit daft. Just a bit daft. Just a little bit daft. You know, a little bit daft. It's a very good album. Beyonce was really at her absolute peak with this album, for me, until she made Renaissance, which I think is her best. But I can see why you'd call this her best, but just having it above Stevie, I think we're doing a little too much there. Wu-Tang Clan, Enter the 36 Chambers, obviously a classic. We've got R.E.M. Wish I liked R.E.M. more. I think they've got some great songs. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't absolutely love any of their albums. The Hissing of Summer Lawns. This isn't one of my favourite Joni albums, actually. I'm a massive Joni fan, but this wouldn't rank in, like, my top... Ooh... Maybe not. Definitely not in my top 5 Joni albums, that's for sure. But even beyond that, maybe not top 10 actually. I don't know. I've got a lot of Joni albums I love. I think Travelogue is a really underrated Joni album. That's a really late one in her career that came out in like 2004 or something like that. I think that's a really underrated one. And there's some of her like 70s stuff that I rate really highly too. I don't think the Hissing of Summer Lawns would be that high for me. Certainly not above some of the ones we've already seen. I don't know about that. Oh yes, thank you. Some actual representation of some music that doesn't exist in America, Canada or the UK. Oh, love to see this. And it was a bit of a cheeky tweet they put out as well, where they were like 300 albums, and then they put 6 continents in the tweet as well, and blah blah blah. Like they just did like this numbers thing, and I feel like that was a little cheeky dig, because literally the only continents that were represented on the Apple Music one was like basically, you know, North America and Europe. Like that was basically it, apart from Bad Bunny really. But yeah, Johnny Cash as well, really like that album. Gotta rate some Johnny Cash. Blonde, 49. really high up. We are actually now beginning to see official publications like take this album seriously. Like this is making it on all the lists now, and it's still quite young. Let's not forget, 8 years old isn't that old really. Julie Cruz, Floating Into the Night, yeah, really good album, that one. Can't really fault it. Kind of Blue, of course. Things Fall Apart, Revolver. Things Fall Apart for me is a good album. I think, personally, I've always preferred How I Got Over. I feel like I'm a bit in the minority with that one, though, but I feel like if I were to make a list like this, that would be the Roots album that makes it on. I just absolutely love How I Got Over. I think that's a stellar album. And, of course, Revolver. We're going to see Beatles always. For the record, by the way, out of context, that might have sounded like I'm a Beatles hater. I'm not a Beatles hater. I'm just saying we're going to see a lot of Beatles, and that's okay. I would more than be happy with seeing Beatles pop up on this list. I know there are people out there that absolutely really don't like how much love they get, but they're just that band for me that are as good as people say. They're just as good as people say, and that's it. Apart from Sgt. Pepper's, I don't think that one's as good as people say. I will say that. If that pops up high up, I probably will have comments to make. But yeah, no hate on the Beatles otherwise. Yeah, Sufjan Stevens, Illinois. This was one of the biggest snubs for me on the Apple Music one because it's recognisable and popular enough. Like, it's not some indie bum. He's not some indie bum that's working in the streets doing some busker stuff, This is Sufjan Stevens. Put some respect on the man's name. He is in all-time discussions. He is up there with the very best songwriters ever. I'm saying it. And I said it in my 2023 year-end lists, I think, or I said it in my Sufjan Stevens Javelin review, because it was my album of the year for last year, just in case you forgot, or just in case you haven't seen it. You should see it, because it's a good video. It's a good one, yeah? It's a good one. I say, I think it's a good one. And I think he's in their all-time discussions now, and I think he has been for a long time. And he has a lot of, success and streams. Like, his streaming numbers are crazy. Like, he has a lot of streams, more than I realized. This guy is a known guy. He's not some unrecognizable dude, and we should be taking him serious. That Illinois, incredible album. Exile on Main Street, the Rolling Stones, yeah, one that I think we tend to see on these lists. I do really like the Rolling Stones, actually. I do think this is probably up there with their best albums, one of their best albums, but they're another band for me. I like their albums a lot. You know what? They kind of fall into the Led Zeppelin zone for me. Where it's I really like the albums when I listen to them. And these guys have got some amazing songs, do not get me wrong. But when I think about it hard enough, I'm never eager to go back to them. I'm not really playing them that often, and I'm not really head over heels for any one album. It's they've got songs that I love, but not one album that I'm head over heels for. Maybe I need to change that with them. But yeah, just an interesting one there. Amy Winehouse, 36. She was obviously in the top 10 for the Apple Music list, which I really like this album. I think, I've said this already, I think it's a very good album that pulls very dearly from its influences. There are some very notable influences for this album, like those 60s girl groups, like the Supremes, the classics of the soul era, and her voice is really one of a kind, but I don't think the music is at the level of some of the very best soul albums of all time. That's maybe my kind of hot take about Back to Black, but the writing is really top notch. I mean, some of the highlights on the album are insanely good. You Know I'm No Good, the title track, incredible songs. Cannot deny those. Ooh, Idler Wheel at 29. I take it they're calling this the best Fiona Apple album then, because we've already seen When the Pawn. Wasn't expecting to see this. Really brilliant album. I mean, if it weren't for Kendrick Lamar and Frank Ocean, she'd have 2012 album of the year locked in, because that is truly a remarkable album. It's a really strong year for fantastic albums, 2012. The top end of the year is just full of just incredible albums, and this is one of them. Quite cool to see this on the best of all time. Of course, we get Lauryn Hill as well, Miseducation Lauryn Hill. I just assume every list we see now, we're always going to see this, because it's always been regarded as that album. It blends soul and rap perfectly together. It's a really good gateway album, actually, for people that might not be fully invested in the world of hip-hop music, because there's a lot of people out there that still don't really value hip-hop. as I've been very familiar with, particularly when you just kind of come across people in general chit chat. If you say you're a fan of hip hop, there's still a bit of like but I think Lauryn Hill is a really good gateway into getting people to respect and appreciate the genre. Okay, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, like, I think the iconic status of this album and the artwork might be more legendary than the music itself. Like, it's so unique and creative for what they're trying to do, but I just don't think like any one track has me locked in. Like, I just feel like when I think of the Beatles and my favourite Beatles songs, I don't really have one song on this album that I'm like, oh yeah, I absolutely love that one. But I don't know. I just think it's okay. Okay, we got To Pimp a Butterfly, number 22. Of course, we have to have this in all-time discussions now. I think this is the exception to the rule, because usually I would probably say, let's not go crazy with albums that are maybe only like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, even maybe 10 years old, because I think 10 years old is probably like the marquee, I guess. But yeah, this is the exception to the rule, where it's like, I can contradict myself with everything I say about those things, and this is like the one that stands above that. It just is up there with already the best stuff that's ever come out. I mean, it's just remarkable what he was doing on this album. Musically, it's so interesting as well. The way people talk about it as if it's like boring. Like, how are you listening to Wesley's Theory and you're bored? Like, you do not appreciate like the classic era of soul, funk, like, at all, if you can't listen to that song and get something out of it. Like, it's wild the way people say like this album's just boring and it's made for white people is one thing I always see as well. That take is crazy. Like, you telling me the influences, the way he's pulling from like classic black genres and black eras of music, like that classic like George Clinton sound on some of these tracks, Parliament, Funkadelic. How? What are you talking about? You can't be serious if you say stuff like that. I just cannot believe people say it. Anyway, Velvet Underground, of course. Oh no, we got Wilco. I jinxed it. I just don't like Wilco, guys. I've tried to avoid it on this channel for years. I've tried my best to not talk about Wilco, because people love him. But I'm sorry. I don't get it. I find it so bland. I don't get it. Speaking of Funkadelic, gets in, boys. Boys, let's celebrate. We got Maggot Brain at number 17. Love this album. This would definitely be in my top 100 somewhere. Incredible music on here, man. Like, holy shit. The first track, how bold is it to start with that 10-minute psychedelic, ridiculous odyssey of Maggot Brain, and then you just go into some of the grooviest, funkiest tunes of all time with Can I Get to That and Hit It and Quit It. Like, are you joking me? This album has it all. It's really rocky at times as well. It's not just a funk album. Yeah, I love it. Funkadelic and the Isley Brothers are like two GOAT bands for me. Like, they're just incredible. They had such great albums. Janet Jackson, The Velvet Rope, of course. We've already seen Control somewhere in like the 200s, I think it was. So I think they're right to put this one higher up. Born to Run, Bruce. You know what? I'm going to say it, man. Darkness on the Edge of Town. Why is that never on these lists? Born to Run, the title track, is like godly. But as an album, Darkness at the Edge of Town, that one, that's the album right there. Why is that never on these lists? I don't know. Anyway, Blue, Joni Mitchell, of course. Incredible stuff. Are we about to see Marvin Gaye? My laptop is frozen. We are seeing Marvin Gaye. Yeah, I mean... Oh, I like the write-up here about Joni Mitchell. We're accustomed to hearing ultra-confessional lyrics in popular music now, but Joni was one of the first to make that brave leap. I think that's so true. I feel like so many like modern singer-songwriters like Mitski, Phoebe Bridgers, Taylor Swift in a huge way, because Taylor Swift is like the biggest of all of them. They owe a lot to Joni. They owe their lives to Joni. And she kind of gets a bit disrespected in conversations now. I don't see her talked about as much. What's going on? Marvin Gaye, Yeah, these two absolutely would be in my top 100 somewhere. Incredible albums. Okay, as I like to do, I'm going to keep to tradition. Let's run right through the top 10 and talk through it afterwards. So we got Pet Sounds, The Beach Boys. We got Club de Esquina. Esquina. I don't know how to say it. Yeah. Okay, interesting pick. Wild as a Wind. Nice. Fishman's Long Season. Okay. Stankonia, Outcast, wow, at number 6, that's crazy. Abbey Road, The Beatles, holy moly, okay, we're getting into the big boys. We got, Prince, Sign of the Times, I've accidentally just skipped over that, and Hounds of Love by Kate Bush at number 3. That's what I'm talking about, man. That's the stuff right there. That is the stuff right there. Then, at number 2, Disintegration by The Cure and Stevie Wonder. Songs in the Key of Life. Oh, you made this list for me. You know what you're doing right now, Paste. You know what you're doing. This is a really strong top 10. This is the kind of top 10 I like to see. Because the variety, the diversity living amongst this top 10 is pretty incredible. Like that is a really strong top 10 in terms of just trying to capture so many different eras and so many different styles of music. You got to hand it to them for this top 10. That is really impressive. The Beach Boys, kind of like the culmination of 60s pop music, just existing in its most unique creative space, with Brian Wilson's incredibly like ahead of its time writing as well. You got a friggin' like classic MPB album at number 9 with this one here. Oh God, sorry, my laptop is going a bit crazy right now. With Milton Nascimento and Los Borgias. Fair play. This is a good album. I will say, personally, for me, it probably is one of the most influential of its kind, so I can't really critique it too much. But personally, for me, I'm a big MPB fan, and I think I would have other albums above it, is what I'd say. Maybe I should do an MPB video. If you want to see that, and you're still watching this video, please comment about that, because that might be something I should do at some point. I love MPB music. We've got Wild as the Wind, really strong Nina Simone album. My pick would probably be her debut, actually. I think her debut is the best one, but even still, you could go beyond that and pick. Well, actually, this is a good choice. This is a good choice. I can't really critique it at all. This is a strong. To have Nina in the top 10 is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Fishman's Long Season, I mean, incredible music there. Kind of went unknown for years, but suddenly I think with the internet just creating this world of discovery for people, it just has become such an iconic album. Really, really good album, this. Outkast Stankonia, my personal favourite Outkast album. And I think that would be their hip-hop album that tops an all-time list, right? Because I don't think there's any more hip-hop after this. That's interesting. Not mad at that. Outkast are legends. Stankonia's just got all of the best attributes of what they do. It's got the comedy value. It's got the hooks. It's got the incredible rapping and the forward-thinking beats that make Outkast so special, like B.O.B., but also the fun hits like Miss Jackson, of course. You've got some incredible guest features like Killer Mike on Snapping and Trapping. Like, yeah, this album's just got it all. The humour, the diversity, the range. Oh, what an album. This is my favourite Outkast album. Abbey Road, talked about this a lot on this channel already, or in previous list videos, I think. Yeah, this to me is my favourite Beatles album. It's no shock. It's one that I think a lot of people would put at the top, and kind of for good reason. Sign of the Times, I think I've got to go back to this one. It wasn't one that absolutely stuck with me, because I think Purple Rain is the one that stuck with me the most, but this one might need more listens. Kate Bush, Hounds of Love. I mean, I've talked a lot about Kate on this channel too. Watch my Kate videos. I'm a big fan of Kate. She's a fantastic artist. Great to see her so high up too, because these lists tend to push her down a bit. Like, she pops up all the time on all-time lists, there's no denying that, but she's never really that high up, and I feel like she always should be higher than she ends up being. But this is great to see. Absolutely love this one. You could pick any Kate album, and I don't think it would be an issue. Like, I personally think Never Forever is the best one, but I'm not mad at this being the highest. Like, why would I be? It's an amazing album. I think Ariel's pretty underrated. I think that's a great one. And her debut, I think, is an amazing album as well, that I would have high for an all-time list. I think any of them, like, it's fine. You can say them all. They're dreamy. Essential World, why not? They're just all so good. Disintegration, The Cure, yeah, really good, this one. I've always liked Head on the Door a little bit more, but I think Disintegration has that impact, like that emotional impact that just lives with you. Like, some of these tracks are just so incredibly, like, unique in how they sound, the atmosphere that's conjured up, like, it's so beautifully done. So I'm not mad at this at all. And then Songs in the Key of Life. If you had a gun to my head and you had to say, Ryan, what's like the best album ever, this might be the first thing that blurts out of my mouth, because I'd be so much under pressure. But I think when it comes down to it, the music just peaked here. Music peaked here, man. Like the beauty behind the instrumentals, the joy, the vocal performances. Stevie's such a one-of-a-kind singer. The absolute banging melodies, the funkiness, the grooviness to these tracks, the ambition of tracks like As well. Like, yeah, it's just got it all. Like, music peaked here. Stevie Wonder was on another plane doing this. And I can't stress how incredible it is. And how political it gets at times too. Like, this is a political album, man. Like, there are some really, really poignant lyrics. And for its time, nobody else was really doing it like him. Marvin Gaye and Stevie, for their time, were so ahead of it. Really, really wonderful stuff. Just a beautiful, joyous experience of an album. Yeah, number one is more than fine. And that is it. My reaction to Paste Magazine's greatest albums of all time. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Click the link in the description to see the full list if you want to see the whole thing. I didn't react to every single album, of course, but these are my thoughts. Quite happy to see all these publications do these at the moment. Pretty cool to see. Yeah, I'm very much on board with this. And yeah, really good list, really diverse. Definitely one of the better ones I've seen in terms of trying to capture as much music from all kinds of passages of life in the world. Like, it touches on genres of music that don't just live in the Western world, which I'm pretty impressed with. But yeah, thank you as always for watching. Do subscribe. Do check out my Patreon as well if you want to support me for videos like this. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments as well. If you want to see more like this, that'd be great too. Have a good day. And yeah, goodbye.